All right. Which one of you moonshiners been doing HVAC around these parts? Okay guys, what we have here is a brand new 3-ton Goodman AC unit that was just recently installed. And don't think it was necessarily a professional installation. When I came out, she was froze solid on the suction line all the way back to the compressor. And I could see this putty right here on this 3/8 line. But the service valve on the suction side was all covered in ice. So once it thawed out, came back out to this. What a mess. Talked to the owner. He looked at a YouTube video and he used soft solder, so I'm wondering how much flux he might have got in the system. But I got a bad leak right here. I guess soft solder probably didn't clean this copper up good, or it might have held, I don't know. But you got a lot of soft solder on the inside too. So bottom line is, I'm going to recover what refrigerant's left in this system. I'm going to try to get this stuff off. I don't know. I told him I might have to take the service valves out. I'm going to cut that dryer out that's inside this Goodman, and cut out the old dryer he put back in on the inside, and put in a new liquid line dryer in case there's some acid in here from that old flux, and see if we can get this thing, you know, give it a life. It was made in December of 2020, just put in about a month ago, I think, so it deserves it deserves more than this. Okay, it's a long way to get a cord around here, so I'm just stealing a little power off of the disconnect. So we're going to get this thing started up and get this gas out of here. We'll go inside and look around while that works. Okay, here's what we got inside. That used to be a pane unit. The pane furnace is still here. We got the little short 24.5 inch wide Goodman coil here. You can see it's a plumbing solder, soft solder that he used. But what's really amazing is, see this old dryer? It's got a carrier part number on it, and they cut it out and reused it, even though the outdoor unit has one. So we're going to take both of these out. I'll probably put the new dryer in here just in case there's, you know, whatever in this line. But I'll have to take the old unit, the outside unit apart, and get that factory dryer out of it as well. My biggest concern is, you know, can I get this solder cleaned up enough to get back into it? And I think we can. I think the you know, the concern is get it hot and let it boil back into the pipes. I don't want to do that. I want to try to clean it up best I can. All right, that didn't take long, so we're going to go ahead and start taking her apart so we can get to that dryer. Okay, still got the valve cores in, but this JB weld seems like it either didn't set up, or so anyway, it's not really hard, so that's good. Maybe it's not been on there long, I don't know. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to scrape it here and on this service valve over here, and then try to take some emery cloth and get most of it off before I ever get the torches off the truck. I've got a file too, I can clean it up with some. If I can get these two loose, I think we can save this thing. I'm going to cut this copper off way back here. It's kind of bent, and this is the roundest spot I could find to be able to go back to. So before I cut it, I'm going to try to clean some of this oxidation and dirt and whatever else is on here off, and that way I won't have much prep work to do when the pipe's open right there. Okay, just to get that control panel out of the way, I had unplugged the compressor wires. There's no pressure switches or anything on this, just a fan and compressor. I've got to change this dryer, and it looks like it goes from 3/8 to 5/16 right here. But the biggest thing was I couldn't tell what was going on under here when I was trying to cut that JB weld off. And all it is a big gob of solder underneath the bottom in two places. So I just laid her down real softly in the grass here. No, the oil's not going to run out of the compressor. It's turned the right way. So now I can go ahead and get these service valves hopefully back to factory spec. Okay, so what I've tried to do is get all of the JB weld away from this joint and truly get it off the service valve too, just so it won't be there for future use. But you can see they used a, I don't even know if it's used the right way. It's a bushing that pops it up to from 3/4 to 7/8. I don't think I've ever had a bushing like that, but we'll pull it out and see what it is. But I'm not going to heat this up with it laying like this, because again, I'm afraid of that soft solder, running down into the valves. I'm gonna go ahead and flip it back over. Of course, I just screwed these back on to keep the dust out while I was filing on the old JB weld. But what I'll do is set it back up, pull these valve cores out, purge some nitrogen through it, and heat these up ever so slightly. This stuff should melt about 400 degrees, and take something and pull these out. Went in the large line, got it capped off with a rubber cap, and I can feel the nitrogen coming out of the service port. I screwed on just a flared type cap on there, don't have any rubber in it, to make sure the nitrogen comes past this joint. But I don't anticipate having to get it hot enough to even create a problem, because this soft solder should just come right out just like that. So I've got the torch on very low and got very little oxygen turned on. So what I'll do is get a brush and warm this up a little bit and try to brush every bit of that soft solder out of there. Okay, I've cooled this line off to let that solder set back up, and I'm going to put my brush in, as deep as I can past it. And then what I'll do is heat this back up slightly and pull that brush out and try to bring all that soft solder with me. I mean, I've never had to do this before, but my theory is the more we can get out of there, the better off we'll be. Little dots of solder was falling down and dripping off the pad. I'm going to cool it off and do it one more time. Okay, so she's cool. So I'm going to put the brush back inside. Heat her up with just a light flame. See the little dots falling out, bouncing around? I think that's about all we can do for her. And we'll put it back together and silver solder it and hope for the best. Okay, when you're flowing real small amounts of nitrogen, you can actually go backwards through stuff. It check doesn't catch it. So I've got it turned up on purge right now. I'm gonna turn it back down to braze. Take this cap off, cover this up to make the nitrogen come through here. But I'm going to wrap this valve in a wet rag before I heat it up at all. Oops. Got nitrogen going through there now. I'm going to heat this one up and see if I can get it out just as easy. Just putting a little O2 on it to try to cut down on the soot. Here she comes. Man, he laid it too, that one. Not sure if that's like a 5/8 adapter, if they really make a bushing like that. I've never seen one at my local supply houses. So I'll cool that off, put a brush in it, try to get some of that solder out. I think that's clean as she's gonna get. All right, we're about ready to start putting this thing in like a new unit, except I want to get rid of that dryer. I'm just scared that they got a lot of flux, especially if they're trying to get it to stick to that old copper that they didn't clean. And that takes, those dryers are supposed to take acid out, so hopefully a new dryer will take out more acid than one that's already been compromised. Okay, as you can tell over here on this back side of the dryer, it's got that smaller 5/16. I thought maybe that had some kind of a pipe that wedged up, but it's actually the dryer's made that way apparently. So I'm going to take this whole assembly out, get out here where I can look at it and see what to do. Man. It's got 2 screws. Sorry. Just looking at this, I'd say that's probably 3/8 on the outside, because it kind of matches that side. So I may be able to cut this off right here and just swedge up a piece of 3/8 to go up over it. It's either that or leave this little restriction in it and slip 3/8 up over this. I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, they built it this way at the factory. I'll cut this off first and see how it fits on 3/8. Be like an internal coupling. Part number on this little guy, an 083S. The S must stand for smaller on the other side. Well-shaped piece of 3/8 copper to basically replace this dryer and that little piece of pipe. And like we thought by looking at this valve, that's exactly what happens if you clean up your copper good. This will slide right up in it, so we can make a joint right there. I mean, that's what they did from the factory, so it should be just as good. On this end, I'm going to just swedge it up and put it up over the factory piece right past that 90 where I cut it off above the dryer right here. So I'll swedge this guy up. Let me take this back off. Swedge this guy up. I've already reamed it. These little ones, I like to turn it a little bit because this new copper, just think what the old copper was sometimes. If you go a little too fast, it'll bust. So that should go back where I cut this one off like that. So I'll get everything cleaned up and we'll get this little piece, we'll run some nitrogen through it and get this little piece brazed in. And then I guess we can go ahead and hook the outside up because the skies are threatening. Okay, we got the nitrogen on and flowing. Might be able to hear it. What I'm going to do is braze up these 2 lines. I'll start at the top. That's where I made that swedge joint and go back onto the factory pipe. We'll braze it. We'll braze this one. And then we can put the unit back together. Got something to eat before I did this. Shaky. But I brought a piece of short copper here. I'm going to, yeah, see, it goes right in that thing. So we've got it good and clean. There's no solder in there left to speak of. So I'm going to get this fitted up. I'll run to the truck. I keep my bushings on the truck, or my couplings. I got a 7/8 by 3/4 coupling I'll put right here. Okay, I got everything kind of fitted up here. I've got nitrogen going in this hole and coming out this hole. But what I'm going to do is braze in my liquid line first, and then I'll do this joint up here, way up here. I'll do this joint, and then I can pull this apart. There's enough slack in this line set to push it back into the house, into the basement. So I'll get this brazed up first, and then I'll slip some Rubitex up over it, so I won't have to cut my Rubitex. I'm going to try to flow enough in it to get it running out the bottom. There we go. Make sure we push any of that soft stuff hopefully out of there. It's rice on fire. Good thing it's going to rain. All right, I'll cool that down and we'll do the big one. Penetration. The last joint out here, nitrogen flowing. One notch. So I've got the Rubitex pushed back and held down with this cutter. So we'll see if we can get plenty of solder in this one. Like I say, there's probably definitely still some of that soft solder in there, but hopefully we can just chase it out, do something with it. A little longer piece of straw. Got it falling out the bottom, should be good. Leak check. Passed. Didn't have a leak, but as I was cleaning up and adjusting everything, I noticed I had actually melted the edge of that service valve a little bit right there. So I daubed a little bit more on the outside just to make it prettier. But I screwed a cap on it, turned it on, and had no indication of a leak anywhere. So once we get the inside done here in a minute, we'll put a real pressure test on it. I'm gonna have to do a little adjustment there too. You notice you got two thermostat wires is all you need for straight AC. They're supposed to go through this larger hole, but they put it in the small hole, and then of course that's going to make it where the thing will rub. So wrong hole. Guess I didn't need to bring my vacuum pump. So he tried. I was afraid he didn't pull a vacuum at all, but looks like he had a vacuum pump anyway. So we got nitrogen flowing through this. What I'm going to do is just heat this up to get it apart right here at the coil. And then this I'll just take loose and I'll just cut it up here. And I've actually got some of these in my solder kit. I don't have the nuts, but I'll just cut this one off and get the nut, and I'll just put a new fitting here, so I don't have to worry about cleaning that up. The only thing I'll have to clean up will be back in here. Okay, we got nitrogen flowing, so what I'm going to do, I've got a wet rag here just to keep that cool. I'm just going to heat it up right here and pull this apart, and then I can cut all this off and not have to do anything to it. And after we do that, we can take this loose and cut it off. There we go. She's out and dripping. Yeah, I see solder splatter back in the pipe back in there. Must have got it pretty hot when they was working on it. We're just gonna have to clean her up the best we can, and then hope and pray it lasts. I mean, I don't want you to think I'm getting on people for doing stuff themselves on YouTube. I mean, I use YouTube to fix my car. I hadn't had my car to a mechanic probably in my whole life. But you know, you just got to know your limitations. You know, changing the blower motor or capacitor, and you got a little bit of electrical aptitude, do it. Brazing up your line set and you don't have a acetylene torch, just say no. I took this piece off like I said I was going to, and I'm going to just replace it rather than try to clean it up. But I thought I better go ahead and check the piston. There wasn't one stuck on the outside unit when I got here. So this coil is good for up to 3.5 tons based on the model number. And this is a 3-ton outdoor unit. We have a GSX 14036K. And on this piston chart, with all AHRI matches, it's supposed to have a 68 piston. This is a 78 piston, so this thing would have been flooding back really badly. So another good reason that we took it apart was to kind of check these types of things that you know, average homeowner wouldn't know about. So I got to dig out a 68 piston. Hopefully I've got one. I might look around here and see if I can find the one that came on the unit. It might be laying down here. Okay, I couldn't find the one that came with the unit, but I found one on the truck. That's a 68. It's about rubbed off where it's been riding around, but I can see the little tag in there too. It says 68 as well. And that's got us a new gasket. So I can put my new piece on. What I'll do is put the new piston, the new gasket, the new piece that's never been used, cut me a little short piece of copper, clean up this copper, put the new dryer in right here with the arrow going in the correct direction, and that'll take care of the liquid line. Like I say, this suction line, I'm gonna have to try to get some of that stuff out. Hopefully it'll just wind up in the bottom of the compressor if it comes loose, but I'm gonna try to get it out of there all I can. Okay, this one is the old and that one is the new. See the difference in the size of the orifice? So even in here, it was wrong hole. Okay, we're going to put this liquid line together so that we can have nitrogen coming out of here like we do now when we try to clean this up. Extension cord, gas line, blue pipes. See if we can stay away from all of it. I don't know how to do this. There we go. We're heat pump country. I don't get to put in many directional dryers. Move the rag down. That's way too much. Perfect. Still got nitrogen coming out the hole. I'll cool these off or I won't get burnt. Then I'm gonna start working on that little guy. Propane torch was laying here, what he used to put it together with the first time, so I'm gonna try to use it to clean this solder out. That way it won't get quite as hot. Ooh, shoot, hit me in the face. It's everywhere, it's everywhere. That's just a mess. If it wasn't so hard, I'd pull that coil out there and just cut that back. But, you know, you ain't got too far to go before you get to aluminum on these guys.
Is that the solder or is that the coil?
That's the solder. Come back in about 12:30. Okay, I got this street L back in there. What I'm going to do is I've capped this side off, and I'm going to, Missy's going outside. She's going to turn the nitrogen flow all the way up and see if we can, you know, make sure there ain't nothing in there that needs to come out. I'm gonna have to lay you down when I do this though. Okay, we got the pressure test on her. I bubbled everything down just because I don't want to spend a lot more time here, but I'm gonna go in and just make sure the inside's good. The pressure seems to be holding okay, but the little tiny bubble that takes a while to move a digital gauge. And if that's the case, I'll probably throw the vacuum pump on it and go grab a bite to eat. I hadn't had lunch yet, and it's 6 o'clock. Okay, everything's bubbled up down here, so I don't think we have any leaks. Normally, I would put Rubatex on this before I, you know, braze it in so I can just push it back and let it come back, but they've got everything tied together up there, and I'd had to cut off a big piece of Rubatex in order to get enough compression to make all this up, so I'll just slit a piece and glue it on there. See, here's the flux he was using to braze or to solder this together. You notice it says danger, causes severe skin burns and serious eye damage, so it's probably pretty acidic to be inside your air conditioner, so don't use this. And here's a little pack of fittings. It's a 3/4 by 5/8 reducing couplings, so I'm assuming that's kind of what that was stuck inside this fitting, but it says HVAC on it. This is what I use when I have to cut a piece of Armaflex and put it back together. It does a real nice job putting it together. It's kind of like it smells like a contact adhesive, a contact, what am I trying to think of? Contact cement? Yeah, it smells like contact cement. So that's probably all it is. You just put it on both sides and let it tack up and then stick it together and she's there. So if you can see down in that fitting, all that soft solder that's pulled in there, that's why you don't want to use soft solder. And if you do, I mean, like a Stay Bright 8 or something, I don't have any problem with people using that, but just, you know, go easy with it. Well, the pressure test held. It actually increased a little bit. I think we're still gassing off in here, so it's going to take a little while to pull a vacuum since you're pulling it on, you know, the oil and everything. It's just like any kind of a, you know, full system repair. So I'm going to let this nitrogen charge off and get the vacuum pump started and run and get a bite. Well, I'm guessing while we're here, we might as well go ahead and take care of the two. I was explaining to Missy what size lock nut I needed, and she looked over in the window and said, how about this one? So I guess they lost it. Okay, that lock nut worked like a charm, and Missy has brought me a connector to put up here in the thermostat hole. I pulled the wire out of the wrong one there. We'll put it in here and get it hooked back up. Oops. All right, she's going to climb. Last time she climbed to about 950 and kind of floated around there for about 10 minutes, and I've turned it back on. So we've got it down, but it's still just a lot gassing off. But if she'll stay under 1,000 this time, I'm going to put some gas in her and get out of here. It's getting late. He still had the heat pump wires run out here, and when I fixed that thermostat wire, I actually blew the fuse because the red had hot on it, or power on it all the time. So I went in, and when I turned it off last time, I went in to turn the thermostat on, and there was no power. So I went down and found a blown fuse. I turned it on. The contactor's already pulled in, so it'll be ready whenever we put gas in it and hook the power back up. It's 73 in the house. It's set on 70. They're away this week to the beach. I actually put a Mitsubishi mini split in for them upstairs, and it's, I guess, what's taking care of the house right now, because it's been pretty hot around here. Can't get it to, I can't get the stupid backlight to come on. My battery might be getting weak. It's 842 is where it stopped. It's bounced around between 830 and 850, but it's just hanging there at 842. It's been about 10-15 minutes. I got the gauges purged out. I got a scale right here somewhere. I'm going to pull the vacuum pump off of here and set the scale on top and weigh in whatever it'll take. And then I'll, of course, when I don't need a vacuum pump anymore, I can wire my disconnect back up and we can get it turned on and suck the rest in. Holds 81 ounces. You ain't touching that tank, are you? I was trying to show them how much it weighed. Okay, we got the 81 or 81.5 ounces in it. It took it all just through one hose. So I'm going to go ahead and hook the disconnect back up and start it up. Okay, we've got the gauges back on there. We've got the lines hooked up and the temperature clamps on. If I had a disconnect, there it is on the ground. It's tough working in the dark for me. See, it should be ready to go. Again, we put that smaller orifice in there. I can't imagine what the pressures was like with that big one in it to start with. So this should kind of be like the factory startup that he would have done if they, if they put 81 ounces in it at the factory. So still it says it has 16 subcool. Hope that's going to come down a little bit here. Hopefully we've done something good for it and we're going to give it a, halfway decent shot at a long life. She's bringing some heat out. It's as cold as a beer can. I don't know that she's going to need a lot more refrigerant. That subcooling's pretty high as it is right now. But we'll let her run here a little bit. My camera battery's about to die, so I'm going to save it and we'll look at it after it runs for 10 or 15 minutes. I think she's going to be okay. We got right at an 18-degree superheat right now. Turn that light off on. Let's see if it's. Yeah. We got right at a 17.7. I put in the wet bulb inside and the dry bulb out here, and it's calling for a recommended of 16. So we are all over it as far as I'm concerned. There's no point in trying to add a little bit more. Temperature out here is actually a little less than 70, and this actually only gives you the option between 70 and 65. So I think she don't need any more charge. When I went in to check the wet bulb, it had already cooled down in there to 70, so I turned it down to 68. So I'm going to go back in and punch it back up to 70 and let it cycle off. Pack up my gauges and the rest of my tools and go find the pizza. Thanks for watching.